Pastor Ron Jetter, Immanuel Lutheran Church, Grandview, Washington. TGIF. Wow, another week just about gone. You probably heard that the East Coast was battered by a large storm, and in the Northeast there was so much snow that tens of thousands of people were calling in saying, "I can't get to work." And their bosses were saying, "Well, since COVID, you work from home, so yeah, you will keep working. No snow days for you." Apparently, they actually had snow days in schools that were virtual classrooms, online, just so the kids could go out and play and sled. Go figure. Here in the lower valley, the superintendents of our schools tend to not want to use those snow days. I swear, they will send those school buses out, not so much this year, of course, but in previous years, it's a rare day. I mean, it takes far more snow than they get in the East Coast. But of course, it's the East Coast. That's where people live, in the 95 corridor, the Interstate 95 from Boston to Miami. That's where a whole bunch of the country lives. So that's where the news comes from. That's where the weather's important. It doesn't matter what happens out here. We're 3 hours later. That's how it is. Yeah. Anyway, the sun was shining yesterday. A little bit of sunshine felt good. Some vitamin D. I was out playing with the dog, finishing raking up the leaves. It was garbage day, so I got one more bag into the garbage. And if I get 1 or 2 big bags a week, next week, of course, Christmas week, we'll have packaging in there, but it'll be January till I get rid of all those bags of leaves. But finally getting that last sunny day and finishing up the leaves in the yard. Still leaves in the shade gardens, which we created around our 2 large trees. The leaves get in there among all the other plants, and it takes a lot of raking and blowing and a lot of work to get all those out, and that's an ongoing job. Today, a little cloudy, not quite as nice, but got to head off here, go sing. We're singing Christmas songs for Christmas Eve, for Christmas 1, that is to say the first Sunday after Christmas, Sunday the 27th, at which we have, I've put together a service that talks about the origin of the songs, and I hope you find it interesting. December is a time to do things a little different, a time for us to have less of the traditional sermons and more of the festive kind of things and educational things. I am a teacher and preacher combined. I like to do both at the same time. So if you're worshiping with us at 7 p.m. on Thursday, 6 days from now, Christmas Eve, and then on the following Sunday, 10 a.m., then look forward to singing those songs that you mostly know by heart, and maybe 1 or 2 that you've only sung in church, songs that the world absolutely does not know. The songs that don't make it into Macy's or Kohl's or J.C. Penney's or Target. They're not on anybody's soundtracks because they are part of the rich heritage of the Christian church that didn't become commercialized. There is such a thing. All right, back to Exodus. Yesterday I referred to law, physical, electrochemical law, personal, moral compass, home rule, what your family thought was normal, your society, and then, of course, the external law enforcement that includes police, courts, jails, punishment, and so on. And I'm having to apply law to my dog. She bolted out the front door yesterday afternoon, or whenever it was, afternoon on into evening, and somebody delivered a package, UPS. My wife went to the door to get the package, and there goes the dog. And she doesn't leave the neighborhood. We take her on walks, so she knows our neighborhood. She's been with us now, 3 weeks, so she knows the neighborhood. She knows where the cats live, and there are 15 feral cats just within 1 door of us, right next door. So she goes to the front yard, the backyard, the neighbors, and all around. And it took about a half hour for her to wear herself out, and I finally said, "Cammie, sit." And she sat, because we have trained her with both reward and with limits. We don't punish bad behavior. We reward good behavior. We limit bad behavior. We don't punish it. And there's a distinction. And that's how we have decided that we're going to train her. Did I feel like saying, okay, come on, I'll drag you home? Yeah, I did. But she sat when I told her sit. So I clipped on her leash, gave her a treat, and said, good girl. She popped up and walked home with me on the leash and didn't fight it at all. So the idea is we internalize law. So where she wants to please us, and it's good for her and it's good for us. And so we've got to train her not to bolt out the door. We do have a little device that puts out a high-pitched sound, though, that will stop her in her tracks, that just short-circuits her brain, and we've had to use it twice. And the only times we used it is when she saw a cat and she was in her leash, now in her harness, not just a collar, in her harness, and she twisted and tried to jerk the leash out of our hands and get the harness off. One time she got the harness off. We had to push the button and it stops her in her tracks. It stuns her basically, and she can't think, and she goes, what was that? We put her harness back on, and then she's fine. We want to use that as little as possible. That's not the way to really train her to get good habits. We want to do the reinforcing over and over and rewarding the good habits. Rituals are important. Reinforcement is important. In chapter 24 of the book of Exodus, we have a very strange ritual. And we have something that some of my evangelical friends really latch on to, and I don't see that it is that important, but they do. So let me point that out too. First of all, though, Moses gathers all of the people. He takes 70 elders of all the tribes, and then he sets up 12 pillars, one for each of the 12 tribes. And again, there's 13 tribes if you count the two sons of Joseph, which replaced Joseph, and then Levi. So Levi, of course, had to become a priest. All the Levites, Aaron and all of the sons of Aaron, they became the priestly order. So they're not a geographic tribe. But the 12 geographic tribes then have 12 pillars set up. And then the 70 elders from the 12 tribes. So these two numbers, 12 and 70, are going to be holy numbers, and they will continue. In the time of Jesus, we have the Sanhedrin, the ruling council of 70. We have the 70 scholars who translated all of the texts and the manuscripts from the Hebrew that were collected and created sometime between 200 and 300 years before Jesus, this book called the Septuagint, the Greek language Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh in Greek. So all of these are gathered, and they go to the mountain, that same one. They build an altar, and then they take oxen, it says, plural, for the burnt offering. And then when they slaughter them, they fill 2 basins, it says, full of blood. And then the oxen were burned on the altar. The blood of one of these basins was then dashed against the altar. This is verses 3 on through verse 8. And then the other basin is scattered, thrown up in the air so that it can then wash over the people. And you better hope it's a good wind, otherwise only the first row is getting any of that blood. It's like a Gallagher concert, if you knew the comedian Gallagher was. He used to he'd take a big mallet and smash watermelons on stage. And I guess that was supposed to be funny. People would pay to see it, and they would wear garbage bags, and they'd sit in the front row and wait to get splattered by Gallagher and his antics. This is how this is. The blood of the covenant, Moses said, has made you in accordance with all these words. The blood that is on you is the mark of God's covenant with you. Obey his statutes and his commandments. Does that help? Is that a reward? Is that like giving her a treat? Or is it like pushing that button which sends out that ultrasonic sound or that hypersonic sound? I don't know. I am not sure. Does it stop them in their tracks, or does it go, oh good? I would think that it would be kind of a messy thing. We think of blood as having diseases, and the idea of having blood splattered on you. I mean, I worked in healthcare for 12 years, in hospice. My goodness, bodily fluids are considered something you don't want to come in contact with. And if you do, there's a protocol for washing yourself. Here it is the blood that cleanses them. They're cleansed by the blood, not of the blood of the lamb, but the blood of the ox. They're set free by the blood of the lamb in the Exodus, but now they're washed with the blood of the ox in a symbolic covenant. They've received the law. They've been scattered with the blood. And now, verses 9 through verses 9 on, there's this strange thing. I guess verse 15. Moses went up on the mountain, and the cloud covered the mountain. The glory of the Lord settled on Mount Sinai and covered it for 6 days. On the 7th day he called to Moses out of the cloud. Now the appearance of the glory of the Lord was like a devouring fire on the top of the mountain in the sight of the people Israel. Moses entered the cloud and went up on the mountain. Moses was on the mountain 40 days and 40 nights. We don't know if that includes the 7 days or if it's in addition to the 7 days. But there's this Hebrew word, Shekinah, or as my evangelical friends pronounce it, Shekinah. And they kind of do it in a southern accent because Shekinah and Shekinah rhyme with each other. It's the Shekinah glory of God. And God, we pray for the Shekinah glory to just shine on us. And I have friends who pray this way, and I'm thinking, okay, this glory of God settling on the mountain is an extraordinary event. And it lasted for weeks. And you want that to happen in your personal life. You better be ready. You better be ready if God covers you with his Shekinah or his Shekinah glory. You better be ready to have your entire life changed. Are we ready for God's law to live in us to that extent? Even Israel didn't do a very good job, as we'll see in the days to come.